have to consent. Got it. It still says correct. There we go. All right. Welcome, ladies and gents, to our monthly webinar. And today's topic is a fun one. They're all fun. And of course, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop in the chat, put in the Q&A, hit us up on the socials, and we'll definitely get to it. We're going to talk events and conversions, right? So let's start all the way at the tippy top of that. David, what the heck are events and conversions? And I think for context purposes, we're talking about Google Analytics.
Yeah, most of the time, in this case, it is usually within Google Analytics. And what events and conversions are is if I was to look at like a funnel, right, which is the how things come in, the way I would usually look at traffic comes in, then they would do an event, right? An event could be anything, could be an action, could be a button click, could be a link click, could be they go to your social media, they could be a plethora of things that somebody might do. And it might just be an action on a website. So it's something that's tracked in more particular. It's something probably that's also unique to your website from your events. And then at that point, there's a conversion. And conversion would be like a goal that you have. Did they fill out a form? Did they call your number? Did they click your email? Did they make a purchase if you're an e-commerce store? Did they sign up to your email list? Are those like your 4 or 5 things? Or maybe they just spent 3 minutes on your website and you're I don't know, a wrestling blog, and you're going to make more money when more people visit your website, right? Because of ads or something like that. So it could be anything there. And it's like 3 minutes, boom, a goal. And now you could have a number at the end of the day of how many people converted what you wanted them to do.
Okay, so we got a third word in there, which is great to continue the vocabulary. So let's role play it. I'm a lawyer, right? I got a regular website, right? I got phone numbers. I've got a button that gets to my contact form. Give me an example of an event, a goal, and a conversion on my basic website where I have a contact form and a phone number, click to call.
Yeah. So maybe an event that you might have, and the only like little caveat that I'll say is sometimes a goal is an event. Okay.
Sure.
So sometimes we'll set up an event that is the click to call phone number. That is an event, but what we end up doing is take that event and also turn it into a thing. So let's say you have a blog on your website. Okay. Now somebody reads, and then you put a call to action on the website that says, sign up for for a free consultation. All right. And there's a button there. That button now is an event that then takes you to another page, right? We track that button click. They click it, it goes to a new page. And from there, there's maybe a form. They fill out the form. Once the form is submitted, maybe it goes to a thank you page. And upon somebody going to a thank you page, boom. The only reason why you're going to get to the thank you page is because you fill out the form. So that counts as a goal.
So goal and conversion synonymous here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will hear us, and we get asked this all the time. And again, there's some questions coming through, but we get asked about like, I want more conversions or I want more leads, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we take the data of that? Like we're looking at a site, we see a page gets a lot of traffic. What are we then doing, right, to make sure we can eventually convert that traffic into something?
Yeah. So let's say a page is getting 1,000 people or 500 people a week or something, right? And you can begin to start getting more granular with your data, right? So instead of just having 5,000 people or 1,000 people, now maybe you could say, okay, did they click any buttons on the page? So you add the event and see, did they click any links on the page? You could say, people are always like, I should put my social media right on my website. Maybe there's a moment where you check and see, does anybody even ever click your social media? And the best way to track that is through an event. Now that event might not be giving you an answer about a conversion or about what you want, but it's going to get you better data to kind of work from. So by just doing it, you're just able to maybe see a little bit more about what's going on. Because the way analytics works is it's obviously it's set up for everybody. And that's helpful because you get a very like good big picture view of when somebody's visiting your website and how they're experiencing things. But the base analytics, right? Whether it's the new Google Analytics 4 that's coming out or the original Google Analytics, they work all in the same way. They pretty much ping when you visit a website, and it works for everybody the same way. But how do you now customize your profile to now collect data that's really unique to your brand, your website, or how people do things, right? I'll use an e-commerce maybe as a really good example, right? Because that's digital only. So maybe an add to cart, right? When somebody adds to cart on a
Perfect
website,
event.
that's an event. And they didn't purchase, right? So it's not a conversion. It's not a goal. You didn't e-commerce. You didn't finish what you wanted, right? Because if I just tracked add to carts, and that's not going to give you whether or not you're successful or not. But maybe you can look and say, okay, this product, 500 people added to the cart, but only maybe 5 people ordered it. So what is it? Is there a research step? Is there something in the checkout process that's losing them? Is it that they don't like that there's no free shipping or something like that? So you can begin to start seeing, okay, maybe nobody added that to the cart. Okay, well, what's that? Maybe adjusting the price, maybe even changing the color of that button could be the thing that could be that reason. But by knowing how people are interacting on that page, you can then make changes. It's not me, and looking maybe at your checkout flow is not going to help you. So it maybe helps you find kind of issues along the way.
Yeah, and I think this is an overarching data analysis kind of thing and how passionate we are. A question came in specific to the events. I don't want to miss it or forget. Is there a too many events that can be loaded in or too few? Is there a perfect amount? Is what this individual is asking. How do they know?
There's no set like amount necessarily, but there is a point where you could get there's too much information, or now there is a number of goals that you could set up that really, like, Google Analytics just restricts you. But at some point, like, there's probably no reason to have 15 goals, right? Or a number of too large that there'd be probably too many things to track. For events, it probably goes in the same realm where there's a value of, now maybe you have 30 events set up, but maybe you're only really looking at 10 of them that are active or that you're using for your purposes. So,
but to your earlier point, it's about how granular you want to get, right? So to what you just said, yes. And there's a circumstance where you have a very robust site and there's a lot of buttons and a lot of things, or maybe you're developing like really rich, robust keyword content. So you're going to want to have an event of if they stayed there for 2.5 minutes, because okay, they're reading that. But again, without taking in that data and saying, okay, now that they're on that page for a certain amount, what am I going to do with it? And I think that brings us to a two-pronged bigger picture of what kind of today's brief chat is about, which is using analytics data, setting up the right steps, using events and goals to do so, and then taking that into how am I monetizing or converting this traffic, right? Whether that's one human on your website or 1,000 humans on your website. You said an interesting word earlier that I think really kind of brings this all around. You used the word funnel. So let's touch on that again real quick, because I think this is something that is not just relevant because it's a buzzword. It is. There's a company called ClickFunnels and Funnel this and Funnel that. It's because it's a really good way to visualize, right, how we think and perceive of web traffic, web visitors coming in to a website. Right. So can you speak to how the basis level of what is a good funnel and how it would flow?
Yeah, so I'll use like the e-commerce flow as a really good one, because I think that could be, you could begin to start seeing the numbers, right? So let's say I'll use some arbitrary things. So let's say your funnel is the top of your funnel is probably the number of people that visit your website, right? So probably maybe let's start with a nice cool 100, right? 100 people visit your website. The next part of your funnel is how many people maybe clicked on the add to cart, like made some sort of like interest in a purchase, right? Mm-hmm. So then next after that, let's just say 50 people did that, right? Then it gets down to the maybe the checkout button. So maybe 50 people added to the cart. How many people actually like went to the cart now to physically do the checkout thing? So we've all add something to the cart, and we're just like, I'll get to that later, never get to it later. So 50 people maybe get to there. Then how many people now, let's say 25 people now go to the checkout. Okay. So now they get to the checkout page. Now, did they fill out what information? Maybe you have an event there. But more importantly, in that funnel is now how many people are at the end, right? The drop, when they dropped out of the funnel is they made that purchase, right? So maybe it goes down to 5 after that. So maybe 100 people visited the page, 50 people, let's say, clicked on add to cart, 25 people got into that flow, and maybe only 5 people in the end made the final purchase for whatever reason.
And on that, you can actually see why, if on your own website, if you only have just analytics set up and nothing else, you may look at your product page, the product example, and get excited. 100 people went on the site, and then be very disappointed when very few actually converted. But by setting up a few events, like how many added to cart, how many got all the way to the checkout, you then get to see where the drop off is. And I'll give an example. Like, again, we're in this hypothetical scenario. As you then look at that, because some events were set up, you then can reverse engineer solutions to increase. So, right, if 50 people in David's example were adding something to the cart, but literally only 5 were then going all the way through, there would be things we can do, things that your marketing partner, not necessarily us, whoever you're working with, could do to make more sales happen. It might be that maybe the price offended them at some point, and it's got to immediately put a 15% in after 10 minutes or whatever. There's pingbacks where it can actually then email them things. There are like literally countless things that can be done to market, but not if you didn't have those steps set up. So if you only knew 100 people were there and then 5 people bought, and you didn't know what they clicked on or where they fell off, it would be very difficult for you or anyone you'd be throwing spaghetti at the wall of like, I guess we'll try 9 more things or this or that, or maybe give them a hat or whatever. You wouldn't know. But by properly having that forethought to set up your events, set those goals up that lead in to get you those juicy conversions, you can have a fully functional funnel. That magic number David was saying was 100. It was a made up number, but that is then when your funnel's working and it's getting you the number you like in terms of sales. The only metric thereafter is, how do I get more people at the top? That's visibility, advertising, in whatever capacity. But as long as you're tracking things all along the way, that is how you win the game.
Right. And maybe that number would have a 5% conversion rate, right? 5 people purchased of the 100, right? And that's pretty good. I mean, it's not bad. So maybe it's like looking at that number and going, okay, I'm happy with that, right? That's normal. That's about right for an e-commerce. Now, how do I grow that?
Exactly. But only because, again, we were doing your hypothetical example.
Yeah.
Exactly. A 5% would actually be pretty good. I think standard is in that 3 to 5 range for e-commerce. Mm-hmm. But what's so interesting is in your example, 50 of the people added something in the cart. That would be normally not that many if it was as low as 5%. But that is a great action point, right? And your site maybe is not e-commerce. If you're watching this or learning from this, maybe you are a service business. There's still opportunity, because it might mean that one of your service pages, maybe one that makes good money for you, is getting 100 hits a month, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe 4 of those people are clicking for more information or clicking something on the page or reading all the way to the bottom, but 0 or only 1 inquires. What can be done? That would mean things would be added on the page, a call to action, a slide in, some sort of cookie drop. There's just a lot of things that we're not going to dive into that here because it's each unique circumstance. But I think the overarching for today is that I think we've covered this before, but make sure Google Analytics is on your website, right? And if you're not sure, I believe the website is gachecker.com, gachecker.com. You can literally put your URL in. Did I get that right, David?
Yeah.
GA Checker, and it'll tell you if analytics is on your site. If you don't know. Now, again, if you're working with a marketing partner, they probably set that up for you. That's the starting point, but not the end by any means. And if these are questions that you have about your own marketing partner, ask them or send us an email, send us a Facebook message, whatever it may be. We would at least be able to help you understand, okay, you got analytics, you're not seeing any event or conversion data. Maybe it's just making a suggestion to your marketing partner of like, hey, can you add this in as part of my report? Our process is to create a dynamic report for each client that then would always have some of those goals and conversions listed. Very common ones are going to be contact form submissions, click to call. Other people have different ones because it's very specific to each business. That being said, is there anything that you want to close with, David, in touching on how anyone would want to take in the data of what do I do with Google Analytics, events, conversions?
Yeah. In a perfect world, I wish they were a lot easier to create. And some platforms, they have a little bit easier ways to like set up that a button gets clicked and it can track it. And it takes a little bit, but the good news is usually once you set it up once, it's just doing what it needs to do. So what's fun about the process is it is usually kind of a one-time setup, and then it's kind of maybe looking at the data later. And that's kind of what's exciting about it, is by getting the most of your data, you can get the most out of it, and that's what we're really all about. And it's again, the base is good, but how can you do better? And
that's like a core thing. Supporting. Those that knew us from 10 years ago, from 10 minutes ago, we love that data. And if you're not getting good data on your website, ask more questions. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to have more webinars each and every month. More fun topics. Check your email. Thanks for following us on socials. Feel free to ask any and all questions. Have a great rest of your week.